Good evening and welcome to today's meeting. Actually, this is January the, what's our date today? January, thank you. Thank you. I guess everybody in this room knew the date but me. This is our January 16th meeting of the Traffic and Transportation Advisory Committee. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mrs. Zambrano, can you please call the roll?
Chair Lemo.
Here.
Vice Chair McKay.
Here.
Commissioner Engler.
Here.
Commissioner McMahon.
Here.
And Commissioner Gregory is absent.
Thank you very much. Any person who wishes to speak regarding an item on the agenda or on a subject within the city's jurisdiction during the public comments portion of our agenda must fill out a public speaker card, such as this, with the recording secretary before that portion of the agenda is called. Any person who wishes to speak on a specific agenda item must fill out this public speaker card before the specific item is called. Persons addressing the Traffic Commission are requested to state their name and their city of residence for the record. Under state law, issues presented or introduced under public comments can have no action and will be referred to the Traffic Engineering Division Manager or Acting Manager for administrative action or scheduled on a subsequent agenda. It would be appreciated if you and all of us would turn off our cell phones during the meeting. As a reminder, there is also not to be any dialogue between the audience and the commissioners at any time. TOTV can only record your comments when you're speaking directly into the microphone. A wireless microphone is available for your convenience should you need to step away from the podium while speaking. And our first item on the agenda is welcome comments from our commissioners. And if the commission would indulge me, I'm going to do our first commissioner comments. We have a situation where one of our commissioners is, and not just one of our commissioners, but former chair of the commission and current vice chair of the commission, is going to be resigning. I don't know if she's going to be like relaxing in Hawaii or what she's up to, but she's going to try and take a schedule which I know is about 175 hours a week now, and she'll probably cut it down to 174 and a half. Commissioner and Vice Chair Dianne McKay, who has been great to have as a mentor and with great guidance on the commission, but she's also a very dear friend of mine through the school district and a few other things. We've had a great chance to work together, and it is a blessing and a curse to be saying goodbye because we're not going to have the benefit of your advice and your focus on certain issues that I certainly don't take enough time, and I get a good education from you. So to kick things off, you now know a little bit about the way I feel about you, but I have the distinct pleasure of reading your commendation tonight. And this is neat because this is the first commendation I've ever read. And what's really, I guess, nice about it is you're the first person I've actually driven to retire. So, whereas Dianne McKay was appointed to the Thousand Oaks Traffic and Transportation Advisory Commission in 2005, serving through 2012, and whereas Dianne has volunteered countless hours of service to the city of Thousand Oaks during her tenure as traffic commissioner, and has provided invaluable input on traffic-related issues, including traffic safety issues at schools, speed hump requests, traffic calming measures, speeding concerns, bicycle facilities master plan, site distance restrictions, and ordinance changes on speed limits, oversized vehicle parking ordinance, truck routes, preferential parking permit districts, stop sign installations, which was always exciting, and crossing guard programs, and Dianne McKay's contribution as Commissioner of the city's Traffic and Transportation Advisory Commission have proven to be an invaluable resource in the city's decision-making process. And I'm reading this on behalf of our mayor. Now, therefore, I, Claudia Bill de la Peña, mayor of the city of Thousand Oaks, on behalf of the entire city council, commend Dianne McKay for her dedication and many contributions over the last 7 years to the enhancement of our community. And it is signed, Mayor of Thousand Oaks, Claudia Bill de la Peña. So, first, congratulations.
Thank you.
And now, because I know everybody has something to say, but our longest-serving member of our commission is Commissioner Sharon McMahon, and so I'm going to turn things over to Sharon.
Commissioner McKay has a unique expertise that we really needed a lot of times. There's a lot of issues around schools, school safety, walking to school, biking to school, traffic patterns, and she's very involved in the school, as many of you know, and the school site council, and being able to have her unique viewpoint and expertise has been wonderful and very helpful. And there was a lot more that she did that helped us and advised us, and her contribution was amazing. But the unique situation with her expertise in the schools was something that was just terrific to have. And I know she's going on and doing all kinds of other wonderful things, and the public will still benefit from her efforts. And I wish her the best.
And Commissioner Engler.
Thank you. I'm the newest member of the Traffic Commission, and I have only known Dianne for a few years, but I was instantly interested in the things that she was doing and why she was running for her elected office, which demands much more of her time than our commission does, and which, she really works hard to serve. And right away, she had a lot of compelling reasons why she needed to be in that role. And I was convinced this was a real gem, and being able to serve on the Traffic Commission with her has really been wonderful. I learn a lot from her, and she really boils down the ideas of where she sees the value of a project like the one that's sitting on our back wall here. I really enjoy her as a friend, and I am sorry that I don't get to serve with her more often. Thank you.
And so with that, and I'm sure, does someone from staff want to weigh in at all? Is that something that's proper? I know that I've heard tremendous comments from our staff. What's proper? Cliff? Could you I can't believe we're giving our Assistant Public Works Director directions. But Cliff, the floor is yours.
Chair Limo. I just want to speak on behalf of Jay Spurgeon. I have not had the pleasure of working with you, but Jay Spurgeon, who had another commitment tonight, wanted me to tell you that he really appreciated your years of service and all of your expertise, and you will be missed. So on behalf of staff, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Cliff. Now, for those of you just tuning in, you will see that, as it turns out, I am the thorn amongst the roses up here tonight. So you should realize that if you have the ability to serve with these fine women, very intelligent women, you should contact your council members now and tell them you're interested in serving one of the commissions or committees here in the city, because I know we always need a lot of new people with fresh ideas. So call them up right now. They're probably not watching this, so you could get them to turn it on. With that, we are... we've given you that, and I think at the very least, let's have a round of applause, and then we'll give the floor. We'll give the floor to you. Okay. And the floor is yours.
Thank you for this. It's been absolutely my pleasure to serve on the Traffic Commission. I think that we've accomplished a lot in the 8 years that I've been here. We started the school safety team and visited each of the schools and involved the parents and leadership at the school sites to make any improvements, worked with the school districts so that we were improving the same things at the same time. And I think we made a real difference, and I'm exceptionally proud of that. And I thank Kathy for that, because Kathy was the staff person that I worked with most closely on that. I just enjoyed being involved in the city, the engagement of the folks that come down that care passionately about the activities around both their homes and just around the city at large. The bicycle community in Thousand Oaks is amazing. They care passionately about safety. We lost one of our own commissioners in a bicycle accident, which we all cared about bicycle safety before that, but when it came home to roost on our own commission, and we were devastated by it, it was particularly meaningful to make a difference in that area for us. And I think that we have a lot more work to do, but again, in Kathy's leadership, I think that our city will continue to be a safe place to bike, and I appreciate the commitment to it. The crossing guards, I don't know that people understand that the crossing guards are something that our city provides to the school district for the safety of all of our children. It is not something that the school district provides. It's something that, as school budgets have been cut, the city has continued to step in and help and provide that safety mechanism so that students can walk to school and walk home and parents can feel safe about it. They provide it at a staffing level quite a bit more generous than the state requires or recommends even. And it's just one more thing to appreciate about being in the city of Thousand Oaks and how generously they work with their citizenry and the Public Works Department. So again, it has been my pleasure. I will, since I still live in the city of Thousand Oaks, I'm not really going anywhere. Sue was right. My elected position does take up a great deal of my time, and I enjoy it very much. And I know that there are other qualified people that can serve on this commission and dedicate the time to it that it needs. But it has been really, really great, and I appreciate it. All that everyone said tonight. I've enjoyed serving with all of you. Sharon, I mean, you have so much knowledge I can't even imagine with all the things you've seen come through here. And Rick, you and I started together, so we've kind of fumbled through it together for 8 years. And Sue, I know you'll do a terrific job. You're thorough in everything you do. So I know you'll be awesome. And Tom's not here, but I've also enjoyed working with Tom. So thank you very much.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to agenda item number 5, which is, as is always the case at a January meeting, we have to look at our chair and our vice chair positions. And so we have a situation tonight where our vice chair, who would normally be considered a strong candidate for chair, would be nominated. So what we will do is open things up, and Commissioner Engler will open things up right now for nomination for our chair term that expires in 2014.
Thank you, Chair Lemo. I have looked at this, and I'd like to nominate you to serve as chair one more year. I'm looking at two things. First of all, we had a short service year last year in terms of the number of meetings we conducted, but also we have a change in our staffing, and I'd like some consistency for the next year during the time that our city is organizing itself as well. So for those two reasons, I nominate Chair Lemo to be our continuing chair.
Second. Oh, we don't really need a second. We don't do that.
Thank you.
We're on board.
Okay, so now we would turn things over to Mrs. Zambrano for a vote.
May we take a hand vote at this time? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All right, and the motion carries 4-0.
Our next office, and thank you very much, is our vice chair. Term would also expire in January of this coming year. And I'd like to nominate Commissioner Engler. She's already had the year of baptism by fire. And so with the agendas that we have coming up this year and the work items that are before us, this is the perfect opportunity to learn the next level of being on our commission. And so, and as has been noted tonight by other commissioners as well, she's very well qualified. So my nomination is for our Commissioner Sue Engler to be our vice chair for 2014, and that's my nomination. Hearing no other nominations, we'll vote, please.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. And the motion carries 4-0.
Thank you very much. Now we will open things up for the public, and I apologize. We had a lot of housekeeping work to get done tonight. During public comments, each speaker will be given 3 minutes. The recording secretary will set the timer accordingly. And is our timer working now again?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. The green light on the timer will begin counting down the 3 minutes, and when the yellow light is displayed, you'll have 1 minute left. So please begin wrapping up your comments at that time. The red light indicates that your 3 minutes are up, so please stop speaking at that time, but remain at the podium until questions, if any, are asked from the commissioners and they've been answered. And our first speaker tonight is speaking in public comments and not on a specific agenda item, and I believe it is Mr. Todd Lundy. And if you would just state your name for the record. Thank you.
Todd Lundy, 2540 Los Feliz Drive, Thousand Oaks. I've lived on this street for 35 years. I've lived in the town for 59 years, well, 58, 30 days short. I'd like to compliment you on the plan. We went to a meeting at the school where it seemed like they did listen. There were a lot of handicap violations that looks like this plan's going to clean them up finally. But I'd like to see you guys push it a little further and maybe send it to the city council to complete the sidewalk going around this end of Los Feliz. And you'd create such a safer street by doing so, because you build all these low-cost housing, which brings lots of kids into our area, but you don't give them a safe way to get down to 7-Eleven, which is the nearest candy shop. And there's a turn right there. It gets really narrow, and at night, cars park on both sides. And during the day, it looks wide open, like they could walk on the dirt, walk on the dirt. But when the cars are there, then you've got the kids walking in the street. I've almost seen 2 get hit there in, I'd say, the last 4 years. And the more of these homes you bring in, the more kids you bring in. And if you would complete the sidewalk on this end, and that would complete it all the way down the street, then these people would only have to cross the street once to get to school. And I think it might be an idea for you guys to look at that. Just push the agenda a little further. This would be a separate project from this. I understand this is through a state grant through the schools. So that the city would have to pick up. But the idea that you can build these, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 units, and then just put a sidewalk in front and call that safe, and then have all those kids, you're adding 75 kids to the area when you build these. So if you're going to be responsible enough to build low-cost housing, you need to be responsible enough to give these kids a safe way down to Teal Boulevard.
Well, I'm going to open it up to see if anyone has questions for you. You're right. It is a Safe Routes to School grant. And I would like to just ask staff when we're done with questions. I believe there is a process where the citizens communicate a little bit more directly with staff and council when looking for an expenditure. I'm not sure that we're actually able to begin that, but let's go to questions from the commission first. Vice Chair Engler.
Thank you. My question is specifically which area are you talking about? Are you referring to west of our project area?
Yes.
Thank you.
This one.
No other questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have no other public comments, and so our next agenda item is number 8. You'll notice inside your packet under agenda item 8 are the summary notes. Wow, from our September 19th meeting, way back in the year 2012. And this is for your information. I'm sure you've all taken note of it already. And so with that, does anyone have any questions or corrections they want to discuss with staff on the summary notes? Hearing none, we'll move now to agenda item 9A, which is our Los Feliz driveway sidewalk installation. And for that, we will go to Kathy Lowry, one of our traffic engineers. So, Kathy, if you would take that item.
Well, thank you. Good evening, Chair Limo and members of the Traffic Commission. I will be talking about the Los Feliz Drive Sidewalk project. It's also part of the city's public outreach for members of the public, which we have several tonight that are attending the meeting, and maybe they have submitted some cards. If you have anything you want to talk about, you need to fill out a card so that when it comes to the time to discuss, you have that opportunity. Some short background. In December 2011, the city held a meeting at the Caneo Elementary School with the parents of the students to go there to talk about their feelings for a sidewalk. They were very much in favor of it. So I submitted a grant in March, and the city was awarded the grant in July. And the grant being a Safe Routes to School grant, and the grant is to fill in the sidewalk where it's missing between Caneo School Road and Skyline on both sides of the street. So in September, I brought it to the Traffic Commission and provided you all with a presentation. And then after giving your direction, we contracted with KOA to do the plan specification and engineers. We have a member in the audience tonight from KOA, Frank Benavidez, so if we have more technical questions, he can, of course, can answer them. At this point, the project is at the 50% design. What we set out, the parameters of the project, were to maintain 18 feet of travel lane on the north side of the street. That's the side that Caneo School's on. On the south side of the street, we wanted to maintain 12 feet of travel lane. We wanted to really minimize the number of impacts to utility poles, as well as impacts to private property. And where possible and feasible, we would improve drainage along this corridor. Oh, wait. Now how do I go back up? Oh, no. That's not the button. Okay, I'm sorry. It should. Okay. So, one of the issues is looking at the utility poles, and this is just an example. There's many utility poles, but it looks like at this part of the design, it may be possible not to have to relocate any of the utility poles. We're still at 50%, so it's not a done deal. But what the American with Disabilities Act requires is that you have 4 feet clear width of sidewalk. And it looks like every location, there's a good chance we have that, except for right at the corner, which is the right picture on the right at Skyline and Los Feliz. That would be only 3.5 feet, which is still legal, and but 4 feet is preferred. But at this point, it looks pretty favorable that we won't have to relocate any of the utility poles. But we're not saying for sure. And regarding right-of-way acquisitions, there's two properties, 2637 and 2825, that the right-of-way actually is right back of the paved area of the street. Even though for both these properties it looks like there's a whole section where their walls are, or their fences, that would be city right-of-way. But in both these situations, we'd be going and asking the property owners for a dedication so we can put the sidewalk adjacent to their wall fence, and then it would provide them to have on-street parking. In the event we're not able to get that, the sidewalk would meander close to the street, and then they wouldn't have on-street parking. There's 8 trees that are located in the public right-of-way that will have to be removed. And I should say all this is on the exhibit in the back of the room, and the people in the audience have had the chance to look at it. But just so it just doesn't look like a dot on a piece of paper, we have pictures of all the trees. So at 2412, there's a coastal live oak that would need to be removed. At 2811, there's a Bisbane box that's right in front of that ice cream truck. At 2466, there's a rather large eucalyptus tree that's growing right into the power poles there, you can see. And right next to it, at the same property, at 2466, are 2 juniper trees that are, you can see how it's like right back of the street, why it's the section would be in right where we need to put the sidewalk. At 2560, there's a pepper tree. And 2426, there's 2 palm trees and some shrubs that also are right adjacent to the existing curb that would need to be removed. Drainage, as the residents are well aware, it's very challenging out there. The main thing is, if you're just looking at this picture, there's a minimum cross slope in the street. So what that means is that most streets have a crown. Like in the middle of the street, the water usually drains to one side and then it drains the other, which is why we have curbs and gutters on both sides of the street. This part of the city is very old, and it's almost entirely flat in some sections. So all the water actually sheet flows just to one side of the street and not to the other. And so on the north side of the street, we have these catch basins that are very nice, and the purpose of them was to catch the water and drain down to the west. Across the street is where the water really drains. So like this property owner put a notch in the curb so that the water now drains to a side yard and doesn't drain down his driveway. So that's a challenge in this area to correct the drainage problem. So there's two alternatives that consultants come up with is, and it's very, because we're putting curbs and gutters and sidewalks in, it changes the drainage. If that wasn't understood, why drainage is also really important. The first alternative is to take out half the street where it's too flat and then regrade it so that the water actually then drains to the catch basins. Or another alternative would be to put a pipe under the street and then have the water go under the street to where the catch basin is. And the consultants are looking at both alternatives, and they're actually very close in price. So we'll be looking at which is really the best engineering way to do it. Another challenge is there's 32 driveways in the project area, and 100% of these driveways are not at the design of a city standard. So if you open up our city standard books and how you design driveways, not a single one of them meet the current city standards. And by putting a sidewalk in, it exacerbates the problem because you're making it, you even have less opportunity to drive up your driveway before you've now hit this new flat area for the sidewalk. But we have very talented engineers, and they've actually figured out how they're going to solve that problem. It's just not at the 50% level because they have to look at all of them. And there's actually 4 driveways that are very challenging. But they're telling us they can fix it, and we have some preliminary ideas how they're going to do it. So at the next round of plans, at the 95%, we'll be able to see how each driveway is going to be met. But it won't be to city standards because the whole all the driveways would have to be completely removed. But it would be to an engineering standard that still is drivable. If that makes sense. Okay, not going to do this wrong again. How do I go backwards? Oh, I don't want to press the wrong button again. So I push the back arrow. Okay, good. This is the money tree we've just planted because we need more money.
I was wondering where that was.
This is part of the city's
I
landscape
hope
plan.
none of my kids are watching because I told them money does not grow on trees.
The grant we have is $350,000. We actually got $450,000, but some of it is for design, and that's what we're using right now. So for the construction part, it's $350,000. The current 50% design is a little over $900,000. And so the consultant, again, our very talented consultant, will be sharpening his pencil, and we're going to look at different alternatives and try to really figure out how we can reduce that cost. And so, again, that'll be at the next level of the plans because we don't have $925,000. So that's just another kind of really big issue right now. So our next steps will be they'll submit a 90% design to staff. And I was talking to some of the residents, like one of the things that'll also include, we'll be meeting with residents that are specifically have things impacted to their properties, whether or not their mailboxes are being removed or they have driveway issues. And then after all those issues are resolved, we'll have 100% design done, and then it'll come back to commission. We'll notice the public again, and there'll be a discussion about the 100% design. And then hopefully by summer, we'll be able to take it to city council. And then following that, we'll, if council approves it, they'll direct staff to advertise the project for bid in the fall, and then following that usually takes like 2 or 3 months. Then construction would start following that. The two kind of little things that are really big things, but kind of we need to be cognizant of, is that the environmental approval is actually done through Caltrans. So even though the the environmental determination is called a categorical exempt, it still has to go to Caltrans, and it's just, it's just paperwork that they have to process for us too. And also the property acquisition. It's a paperwork process, so we'll be working diligently moving forward. But those two have more loose deadlines that we can't control at this time. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
So we'll open it up to our commissioners for questions now, and we'll start with Commissioner McMahon.
Are you looking, or do you have any ideas for other grants to add to this, or other ways to make up some of the difference for the funding?
I so wish I could say yes, but right now there's no grants that would be within this time frame. We would jeopardize losing the existing grant if we didn't move forward with spending that grant money.
Okay, well, I do have a question. I don't see anyone else right now, and that is, help me with the arithmetic. Because when I look at your schedule, it looks like things are scheduled very, very well. Mm-hmm. We have a $950,000 bill, and we're going to expect the consultant to sharpen his pencil. Let's say that we're extremely lucky, and it becomes, and I think this is really extreme, but it becomes an $850,000 bill. No matter how we look at it, we're $500,000 short. I haven't met the consultant that's going to do much more pencil sharpening than that, but let's say, for example, even if you got another $100,000 and you got it down to where it was really $300,000 or $400,000 of a delta, what would happen with this process, and where would that money come from, if at all? I know it's going to go back to council to make those decisions, but what keeps the project moving forward?
Like one of the things right now, the project has a 20% contingency in it. That's why, because it's at a 50% design. So as the project is more finalized, and if the project costs go down a little bit, the contingency also goes down. So and 20% is a lot. I mean, if I got a 20% increase in my pay, that's a lot. So, decreasing by 20% would be a lot too. So that's one of the numbers that's kind of a soft number out there. And then it's maybe looking at moving some other money around, that maybe there's a project that's not ready to go forward that has some funding on it, that it could be moved over to this project.
And would those decisions be made, those internal decisions be made by staff, or would that have to go through an appropriations process with council?
It would be council, because it would be a reappropriation of different accounts.
Thank you. Now, are there any other questions? Vice Chair Engler.
Kathy, I have a question for you. You mentioned that you had some property that had to be purchased. Is that part of this $925,000 total? And what was that you were?
No, that it doesn't include the cost of property acquisition. And again, for both the properties we're looking at, it'll be interesting how it's such a win-win for the property owner, because then they get on-street parking and they get a sidewalk built for them. Right. So no, that doesn't include the cost of it, but it shouldn't be a substantial amount.
Okay. So that was the where there was the fence and a wall that you're going to be abutting to.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, good luck with that.
I don't have any questions.
Comment? Okay, comment, Commissioner McKay.
Since safe routes to school and school safety has been part of what's been important to me, as this does move along and move forward, I hope that we don't lose sight of that. We got the grant because it is going to provide a way to walk to school for a lot of children, and it is not a particularly pedestrian-friendly area over at Canale Elementary. It's one of the oldest elementary schools in the area, and there's consistent traffic problems out front. We want to encourage parents to let their children walk to school, so I'm hoping that maybe that 20% contingency, and that there will be some money from other projects, because it would be really a tragedy to see something, to lose the Safe Routes to School grant and to not be able to provide this pedestrian safety for children that need it so much. I just hope that we can find it and do what needs to be done. Since I won't be here in a few months to make that plea, I'll make it now.
And Commissioner McMahon.
I think this, I don't think you need to worry too much. This is kind of a feel-good project. It's a win-win for the kids, for the community. I think the Traffic Commission is pretty on board with it, and it just seems like it will happen. I think Mrs. Lowry is pretty good at getting things done and talking the right people into doing the right thing, and I feel comfortable and confident that this will happen.
Excellent. Well, I hope so too. Though I would like to ask just one other thing, and I don't know which process is the best way to do it, but I do think the suggestion that we had from one of our speaker tonight, Mr. Lundy, that we try and also take a holistic approach. I know that finances have a great deal to do with it, but at least be in the process of looking at both sides. We're making it much, much, much safer with your project, and I think that's smart. But the exponential jump in safety would be great, whether it be another grant, whether a member of city staff wins the lottery big time and decides the sidewalk's a good way to go. But I know that money is an issue. I've just been given a card, and is this on a specific? It is on this item. Okay. All right. So what I will do at this point in time is open it for public comments. Open it for comments on this agenda item, and we only have one speaker card, Mr. Lundy, who is our speaker tonight.
I had to file that question.
Would you please also state your name and city of residence for the record, and the floor is yours.
Todd Lundy, Thousand Oaks, California. The reason why I put in the card, I just wanted to ask one question. Is it possible to break? I know that you have to do the safe route through the state, but is there a way you can break this project into two halves? So if you can't develop enough money to do it all, you can at least do the one side?
So this project was given a grant between Caneo School Road and Skyline, and it was very specific, but that's what the grant was for. So to only spend it on doing half the street, I don't think Caltrans would give us the money.
I'm not saying transfer the money down the street.
No, I know, but just like do the north side, not the south side, because let's say if we don't have enough money just to do half the project. Is
they
that what
might
you
take that excuse. Because, getting half the street done for the kids to get to school safely is better than none. But give it a shot.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, this is pretty much informational, correct? There's no action item, so thank you very much. If there's no other questions, we're going to move on with the agenda. And we will now deal with item 9B, and our senior engineer, Beth Baden, will update our traffic signal installation priority list. Ms. Baden?
Hi, good evening, Chair Lemo and Commissioners. I'm Beth Baden. I'm the Acting City Traffic Division Manager. I'm going to be presenting item 9B tonight. And this item actually has a recommendation and an action item. So those two are, first, that the Commission approve the appended traffic signal installation priority comparison table dated January 2013, which is part of your packet. And second is recommend to the City Council for fiscal year 2013-15 budget that the next traffic signal that should be installed is located at the intersection of Camino dos Rios, Teller Road, and Lawrence Drive. So to get on with the PowerPoint, we're going to be talking about the priority locations. And I'm not sure why that's not showing properly on the screen, so you just have to bear with me. The top of that should say, why prioritize the installation of traffic signals?
So that you're aware, it is correct on the screen that our viewers at home will see,
Great.
and the smaller screens here.
That's a relief. Thank you. The city has a legal requirement to have a prioritized program in place, and we must actively implement each component in priority order. To date, 138 traffic signals have been installed. 11 signals remain to be installed and must be prioritized. 1 new signal will be added to the upcoming budget. Here's a map showing the location of the city's traffic signals that are currently installed. California state practice requires that at least one of their signal warrants be met prior to installing a signal, and the state has 11 warrants. 3 are related to traffic volumes. There are warrants related to pedestrian volumes, student volumes at school crossings, signals that are needed to maintain coordination on arterials, correctable crashes, and also to complete the roadway network. The priority system for the city is based on a point award system. It considers and balances safety and circulation. This is the table that you saw in June 2012, and it shows the list as currently approved by the Commission. The point system, if you follow through this table, the first column is showing the current priority number, and second column shows the intersection name. Third and fourth column discuss whether that location meets state warrants, and we've started to assess points to those columns. Third column is actually one of the city's enhancements to the state warrants, which looks at correctable collisions at intersections in the prior 24 months, where the state warrant actually requires that 5 collisions happen within a 1-year period of time. So we've dropped that standard down a little bit so that we can look at our own situation rather than the state warrant. There would be no locations that met that particular warrant. Moving on from there, we list whether these locations are master plan signals or not. All of these on the current list are. And then go on to safety factors and stopping sight distance. So this is the current table that you adopted in June 2012. And then I'm going to go on from here to discuss other factors that are important to consider in prioritizing the signal locations. Considering collisions, as I said, that number less than the 5 per year warrant required by state warrant. Also, intersection level of service and delay. When you go from stop sign control to traffic signal control, you reduce delay and improve level of service. Also, we can reduce automotive emissions and improve air quality. Also, the city has been very involved in improving traffic circulation by using our traffic signals on arterial roads and coordination programs to reduce shortcutting. Next, the change since July 2012 that we're recommending tonight is that 3 new locations be added to the current list. Warrants are met at these 3 locations. In your packet, there's a revised table that shows actually 14 locations with these 3 added. The locations are item number 5, Newbury Road at Giant Oak Avenue, number 7, Lynn Road at Lemonwood Street, and number 8, Wendy Drive at Charlotte Street. So to conclude, we ask that the Traffic Commission recommend to the City Council that the number 1 priority location for a new traffic signal at the intersection of Camino dos Rios, Teller, Lawrence Drive be added to the next budget cycle for years 2013 to 2015. There's a picture of the intersection. Any questions?
Any questions from commissioners? We'll start with Vice Chair Engler.
I actually looked at our last approved chart and compared it to this chart that you're asking us to look at today. And I had noticed the three new intersections, the three signals that we recommended. And I wondered why they weren't present in last year's chart and what rose to the chart this year. What caused them to move up to 5 and 7 and 9? You know, like.
This table is a tool that staff uses and will be updating periodically. So this table was first presented in June 2012. Here we are 6 months later. We've done more research and are recommending that 3 new locations be added to the list. We'll be coming back in 2015, in 2 years, to possibly add additional locations to the table. And certainly within that period of time, we'll be reviewing the table and looking at all of the current traffic factors at that point to revise and prioritize the list that you're looking at tonight.
Okay, so this was a new tool that you brought to us, pardon me, last year, something that you're using now and you're developing and enhancing, and it's a living thing. My question, I think I saw this, my question last time, and this was just a request if staff can provide this, is if I could see, or if the commissioners could receive the list of the warrants that you use as written, so it would make sense to us. This is a wonderful chart, but I often wonder what those warrants are that's provided by the city and which actually we have bettered. So it would be better for me to know next time when we go back to this.
Okay, we can bring that information to you. It gets a little bit technical, but I'm sure that there's a way that we can present it so that it would be meaningful and help you to make those decisions.
Commissioner McKay.
I mean, the reality is we have 14 in front of us, and the funding is probably going to be available for one per, and I don't see that money tree being realistic in any time really soon. So we really are focusing on the top couple and whether there was anything that we think we would want to recommend above this one that you're asking us to recommend for tonight, because number 13 and 14 are so many years out at this point, and so many things might change where people live. So I guess part of my question is there, do you really need to go this far down in 14? I know it's a lot of work and there's engineering studies. At what point does it make sense to not have so many on the list if we're not really ever going to be able to fund them? So that would be my first question or thought. And then second, really we're looking, is there anything that we think is more important than Teller Lawrence Road, because that's the only thing that there's funding for? Is that correct?
You're correct. To answer,
cutting to the chase.
Right. To answer your first question, we have funding for the installation of one signal for the next budget cycle. So based on this comparison chart, we've determined that the intersection of Teller at Lawrence is the most deserving as far as the warrants we've considered and the analysis that we've prepared. When we come back to the next budget cycle, we'll hopefully have additional funding. And it talks in your in the staff report a little bit about the funding and the reasons. Traffic signals in the city of Thousand Oaks are funded primarily by developer fees.
Correct.
And with the current economy, development has slowed. And
oh no, I understand. I understand that part, and
right.
And I just in the 8 years that I've been on the commission, I don't think we've ever approved more than 2 or 3 in a budget cycle, and that's even when times were better. So I was just curious about, how far down do we go, and have people think that they might get a traffic signal at some point when it's really many, many years out, if ever.
And actually, the list that you're looking at will complete the master plan of signals. So the reason that we're listing them, these are all of the locations that are currently warranting a traffic signal for whatever the combination of warrants might be. And we're listing them in priority order. Some of these will complete signal installations at the intersections of arterial roads, where it's been known since we adopted the master plan back in, I think, 97, that we're going to be needing these locations to be signalized. And as the city's grown up, we've prioritized and installed the signals as they're needed based on development, growth, and various factors just over time. So here we are in the year 2013. Economically, we can afford to install one more traffic signal this budget cycle. We don't know what the situation will be when we come to the next budget cycle. The previous one, we installed 3 traffic signals.
Correct. I remember that one.
This new cycle, we're looking at 1 installation. This is actually an intersection of 2 arterial roads. It is a gateway to our industrial complex, and it's very much needed. There are other improvements beyond the traffic signal installation that we can consider as well. The road is very poorly aligned. The city inherited this location from the county many years ago. And so now we're looking at some interesting engineering puzzles of how we're going to improve this location to meet the current needs and the needs that we've had out there for quite a while. If you've commuted to the industrial area in Newbury Park, you know that this gets pretty congested and could certainly use some help.
No, and I don't see any on the list that I think would rise above it in any case, and trust the stats in front of me. So thank you very much.
I just have one very simple question in the hopes, I mean, we do know that development for the most part is going to be infill at best and pretty much wrapped up. So my question is, through developer fees, are the developer fees going into a fund that staff and council can decide where they spend it, or do we anticipate that developer fees are going to require correcting what's closest to them?
There is a developer fee that we've had in place for many years, the master plan signal fee, and we assess that for all projects that come into the city of Thousand Oaks. And you know, for larger projects, it's quite a bit of money because it's based on the number of trips that each project is going to be adding to the city street system. So right now with the economy, we actually have quite a bit of development activity on paper, but it's not moving ahead. So we have applications in place. We have projects that have been approved. Apparently the funding is not flowing, so the development has slowed quite a bit. And of the approved projects, they're pretty much sitting on the shelf waiting for a better financial opportunity.
Well, and I think what alludes to what you're saying, the good news is that that pipeline seems like it's going to have a little bit of an ice break in it, maybe by the end of this year at the latest. So we should be able to start hopefully priming that pump a little bit. So buy local, everybody. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much. We do have an action item here.
Yes.
And so what we will, here's my agenda. Commissioner McMahon.
I move that we approve the staff report and move it forward, recommend to City Council for the fiscal year 2013 through 15 budget, that the next traffic signal that should be installed is located at the intersection of Camino dos Rios and Teller Road and Lawrence Drive, and just approve it.
Any further discussion on the motion? Mrs. Zambrano, will you take the vote, please?
All those in favor, please raise your hand. And the motion carries 4-0.
Thank you very much. Next, you'll notice is item 9C in your packet, and it is our bicycle advisory team staff report and our school safety team status report. This is really for us to receive the report. Do we have any commissioner comments? Oh, I'm sorry. Before we have commissioner comments.
I have a brief presentation on part of
Perfect.
this item.
Thank you, Ms. Lowry.
Okay. Because of the uniqueness about the grant that the city was awarded, I was going to give you a little bit of information about the project that's going on at Westlake and Avenida de los Arboles. In case you're not familiar where it is, it's on the intersection of Westlake and Avenida de los Arboles. At this intersection, in the northbound direction, you have 3 lanes. The number 1 lane, which is the one next to the median, is a left turn only, and the number 2 lane, which is the middle one, is left turn, and the number 3 lane is a left through and a right. And that was restriped as a left through and a right probably about 8 years ago. There was a lot of congestion because the 23 freeway hadn't been widened at that time. After it was restriped, the bicycle advisory team became very, best word is nervous about where they should be located at that intersection in order to make a left when if you're a cyclist and you're in the number 3 lane and you're making that left, there's a chance there's a car behind you that's also going to be making that left. And so there was a lot of discussion on where bicyclists should be, and there was really not a consensus. So they looked at me to see what can be done to improve the intersection. Well, after an analysis of the intersection, it turns out this is the highest accident location in the city based on the volume of traffic that goes through it, and then primarily the high number of accidents is sideswipe accidents between the number 2 and 3 lane. And if you've driven through it, you've probably felt this way too. As you're going through the intersection, you kind of think the person next to you is going to sideswipe you, which a lot of people do. So, using the traffic data, I was able to apply for a grant. It's called a Highway Safety Improvement Program grant. It's primarily based on improving safety, and it's a $115,000 grant I asked for. To give you an idea what we're talking about, the biggest problem here is the left turn pocket in the number 1 lane on Westlake. So you're going north, coming up to Arboles, is we consider very short. It's only 200 feet in length. And in contrast, if you look on the screen here, the eastbound lane on Arboles, the number 1 lane, is 300 feet. That's a difference of a third more cars should be able to stack into that left turn pocket, but because it's so short, the cars that are in the number 2 lane actually block the ability for cars to get into the number 1 lane. So that's where we have the problem. So in order to solve that, we're going to have to extend the left turn pocket by removing some of the median. So I just took some pictures there. This is last summer when I was applying for the grant. Within a minute, like everything's completely empty because cars platoon from signals above, coming down the street. They all come down together, and then when a minute it completely fills up at the intersection. And then if you look right, these are the cars going through the intersection, and again, it's a very large intersection. And that number 3 lane, where you can go straight or right or left, the cars are kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and the cars in the number 2 lane think that they can use as much of the street as possible. So this is the concept plan. It's currently in design, but it's basically to extend the median back 400 feet and then make that number 3 lane just a through and a right. And that way the cyclists have a place that they now can rest in the number 2 lane. Sorry. And safely get through the intersection. So our next steps, we're doing 100% of the design in-house. We'll look to the commission to review design in the fall. Then we'll take it to council, have them give us authority to advertise for bids, hopefully award the contract in the winter, and it'll just take a couple months to build it. And it's a grant, so there's a lot of little hoops that we have to jump through because it's a safety grant. But hopefully by this time next year, the project will be complete.
Very good. Sounds great. Thank you, and let's open it up for questions or comments. We'll start with Commissioner McMahon.
No question, just a comment. I have been on a bicycle at that intersection, trying to turn left, and it's scary. This is a great project, and I think it'll be really helpful, not just for the cars, but for the cyclists. So that's great.
Wonderful. Anyone else? All right, and this is receiving the report, correct? Yes. So there's no action item. Good job. Nice job. Very good. And then we also have our, make sure I have this right. We also have item 9D, and this is...
I was just going to ask what happened at Colina.
Okay, so we do have one more question for Ms. Lowry.
I'm sorry, Kathy. I thought we were just on that item. I just wondered what changes you recommended at Kalina, just out of curiosity, to make that better. That's
the principal had made some changes on site, so we reviewed his changes. There's more of a drop-off area, but also looking at putting a pedestrian access west of their westernmost driveway, so when kids get dropped off, they can walk down some stairs and just stay on the property at all times. So between the school district, the police officers that were there, police officer, myself, and so that seemed like a really good fix because there's so many kids that walk in front of that driveway. So the school district's going to be pursuing doing some. So it's right next to the baseball fields.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I mean, they have that great crosswalk in front of the school, the most well painted. So yeah, no, I think that's an excellent idea. I was always curious about that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay. We will now move to item 9D, which is our striping enhancements on Pedersen in front and the vicinity of Oak Brook Park. This is to receive the report, and this is Mr. Tay.
Yes, sir.
Mr.
Thank
Tay?
you. Good evening, Chair Lemo, members of the Commission. I'm Larry Tay, and I'm here to briefly present an information-only item, and so no action will be required. The intent simply is to provide the Commission an increased sense of awareness over some of the smaller-scale projects that we're working on that are nevertheless still important. This particular project involves the restriping of Pedersen Road between Herbs Road and Rustic Glen Drive in front of the Oak Brook Neighborhood Park. I'm sure everybody's well acquainted with the area, but just in case you're not, I'd like to refer you to the vicinity map on the right-hand side of the slide. You'll see in the center of the slide there's a highlighted area that's shown as the project limits. That's the section that's in question. That's Pedersen Road, and immediately below it is the Oak Brook Neighborhood Park. And if you've driven by that park recently, you might notice a chain link fence. It's currently being renovated by the CRPD. Those renovations are almost complete, and the park is actually scheduled tentatively to be reopened to the public sometime early this spring. But before they reopen that park, CRPD's contractor will actually be performing the restriping. So what does the existing roadway striping look like, and what are we proposing to change? As you're driving down the road, this is kind of a street view. This is what you're going to see. You'll notice there's no bike lanes, there's no turn lanes. It's not very accommodating to the various roadway users, and it's a very wide travel lane in each direction. It's not the most efficient use of the available space. So what we're proposing can be described in the typical section that's shown on the bottom of this slide. It's a more complete street concept. Kind of provides parking lanes, dedicated bike lanes. We're maintaining one travel lane in each direction, so we're not taking anything away, and we're providing a turn lane down the center of the street. And this really makes it friendlier for the different users of the roadway. It also allows us to add a quarter mile of Class 2 dedicated bike lanes that were identified and recommended by the city's Bicycle Facilities Master Plan. And all this comes at no cost to the city. The Park District will be making those improvements as part of their park expansion project. This particular striping configuration results in more typical lane widths. It's been successfully implemented on other streets within our city with similar volumes and characteristics. Examples can be Gainsborough Road, segments of Avenida de las Flores, and we believe it'll be successful here as well. Lastly, all residents living within 500 feet of the park were notified of these proposed changes, and we've not received any objections or opposition to date. In light of that, we're looking forward to the Park District making these improvements before they reopen this spring, and we look forward to continuing our partnership with CRPD. With that, I conclude my presentation and open this up for questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tay, and we will open it up. We'll start at the end and work our way down. So, Vice Chair Engler.
Thank you. I actually drive that road a lot, and it is a wide road. Therefore, it's a fast road, and being in a neighborhood that's it's full of kids, plus it's at a park. I think this is an outstanding reconfiguration, and I have no doubt it will be very successful, particularly because we have done this to a much busier street only a year ago, and it was a very successful project as well. And so I applaud your design, and even that this is being done as part of the rehaul for the park. So, great.
I would echo Vice Chair Engler's comments about, I do think it's going to be great. These road diets, as we've called them, to thin down the lanes, I think have successfully slowed traffic down. So I would think that the people that live there would be really happy to have the bike lane, the parking, and smaller route of travel. My question is, because we've done speed studies almost all over the city, and I'm sure we probably have one for that area, is to do a speed study after, then when we do have these conditions come up again and we want to control speed somewhere and we propose a road diet, it's nice that when we do these to have that data at hand. So I know, and I don't know, I'm just guessing we have one from before. If we don't, it's not going to work. But if we do, I'm a big fan of the restriping and road diets to slow people down. So the more we can have in our back pocket to propose those whenever possible would be good to have. But I think it's a great project, even better that it's cost neutral to the city, and thanks to CRPD for that.
And did you have a specific question? I thought you mentioned a question earlier, and I'm not quite sure.
No, it was a comment.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I apologize.
And Commissioner McMahon.
I just have a brief comment. I love to see the dedicated bike lanes, and the more we put in on our roads, the more cars and drivers will be aware that the bicyclists are sharing our roads. And so this is another great project that the city is doing.
Thank you very much. I just have to make one quick comment. I work in a lot of different cities, and I was at an event last Sunday in Glendale where and I was not supposed to mention Glendale, but where they mentioned to me that they thought we were a really good example of successful road diets, and they're just beginning to use that process there as opposed to other means. And I visit one of the areas we did every day, and it works beautifully. So, yeah, and I think it's a really good solution and a reasonably cost-effective one as well. So thank you very much. And we are, of course, just receiving this report. Thank you for a very good report. And now we get to the fun part of our meeting. And we are dealing with agenda item 10, which is status of prior Traffic Commission recommendations. And who will handle that item for us? It is here on our sheet. I can cover that myself if you'd like. Sure. Back on September 11th, 2012, our City Council approved lowering the speed limits on 5 streets as recommended by the Traffic Commission during our June 20th meeting to comply with AB 529. New speed limits on these 5 streets were effective on October 12th, 2012. Also, at the November 20th, 2012 City Council meeting, City Council approved the award of the design contract to the engineering firm of KOA Corporation for design and contract documents, as we heard earlier, of the Los Feliz Drive School sidewalk pedestrian safety project. And by the way, for those of you looking for it, it's on the back of our agenda. Okay. That's about the only information I've been able to give you ladies the whole time I've been sitting up here. I feel so intelligent all of a sudden. All right, so now we have item number 11, which is commission referrals from our September 19th, 2012 meeting, and there were none. And now this is what I meant by the really fun part of our meeting, is our work program for 2013. There is a revision that we were handed at the beginning of our meeting, and to go over this in a little more detail, slightly more detail, I'm going to turn things over to Ms. Baden. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. Take your time.
There is a tentative agenda item on the work program that is in the back of your packet, which is item number 12. and that is for a future meeting date of April 2013 for an annual crossing guard report. That'll be given by Transportation Analyst Mike Hauser. That'd be the third Wednesday of April. And also, we gave you a list of future agenda items that we've been considering, and we've provided a list of 4 of these. And give me 1 second. Get that on the screen for you. Not that one. Okay, try that again. Here we go. There we go. So these 4 future agenda items are a project update for the Lynn Road Bicycle Lane project, also the Wendy 101 interchange project, Avenida de los Arboles at Westlake Boulevard intersection improvements that Kathy presented a few minutes ago, and actually Larry Tay, who just did a presentation, he's going to be working on the design in-house. And the 4th one is stop signs at T intersections. And once you hear those stop sign locations, that would go on to the City Council.
Oh, I'm going to turn it over to a question from Commissioner McMahon.
Is our next meeting going to be the April meeting, or are we going to have one sooner than that?
I think we're going to deal with that in just a second. Our goal this year in particular is to meet more regularly and handle some of the things that are really coming due right now. In addition to that, we know that there will be a meeting in February because we will be gaining 2 new commissioners, and we believe most likely at that meeting we'll also have a representative from our city attorney going over our explanation of the Brown Act.
Okay.
And so it would appear at this point in time for at least a couple of months that we have a pretty heavy agenda, and we'll see how that shakes down. Okay, but I wanted to make sure that we let you know that we're looking at having our meetings more regularly to accomplish 2 things: take what's on our plate, but also not have everything come on one meeting that we may have once a quarter that lasts till 10:30 or 11. So with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, I do have a request. The Wendy 101 interchange project is a source of interest and frustration and curiosity and annoyance for all of those who travel in and out of Newbury Park. And so I would really appreciate it, and I think that all of those who use that off-ramp or don't use it because it's so complicated and maybe go to Borchard or go around the back way. Is it possible that we have that update at our next meeting? I think that there would be a lot of interest in hearing that.
Yes, we can add that to the agenda for the next meeting.
Thank you. I think it's not just me. I think there's a lot of people out there who would really like to know more. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? We'll go to Commissioner McKay.
I would just agree. I get asked about that intersection regularly, and I know it's part Caltrans and part us, but it's just one of those questions that comes up a lot. So if you could do an update, I think that the citizens would appreciate it.
Any, Commissioner Vice Chair Engler? Okay. So with that, I believe that does bring us to the end of our, pardon me? Yeah, I'm just trying to get my agenda back in front of me here. Thank you. I sort of misplaced it somewhere. I think being that she can't get blamed, Commissioner McKay took our agenda.
I did.
So with that, we will, now that we've covered our work program and commission schedule, we'll open things up for traffic commission comments and start with our Vice Chair, Engler.
Thank you, Chair Lemo. I have a new and an old topic of concern. I'll talk about the old subject, which is we're all familiar with, and that's the Avenida de los Arboles traffic calming measures that we adopted. I'd like to have an update or a staff evaluation of how it's working out, because it's been a little bit of time, but we haven't had really that update after a year's time. My particular observation is around the west side of the traffic calming project at Moore Park Road, at Cabracho, and Arbalest. And the reason why is I actually know that staff was concerned about the fact, we have that merge lane going from 2 lanes to 1 lane, and it's a short lane. And it's short now because traffic's allowed, or parking is allowed in front of a home on that street. And I know that staff was concerned about taking away parking from the homeowner. And what I'm noticing traveling on the road is that I see people leaving their cars after they've parked and walking back towards Cabracho to some of the large housing that's on Cabracho. So I'm not sure if we really know how exactly that parking is being utilized. And I personally feel that we're rendering the right lane useless, and people just move into the left lane so they don't have to merge with traffic with such a short amount of time to conduct that merge. So that's my old issue, and my new issue, my first is on Wildwood Avenue. We have parking limitations, no parking after 8 p.m. And what I'm understanding is that there's not consistency in posting on the streets that connect to Wildwood Avenue. And Wildwood Avenue, it's a residential area, and it's right on open space. And what I'm understanding is that young people who are parking their cars and walking out to an area that they use and they frequent, they're bringing out couches and chairs and couches, you'd be surprised. And they're actually lighting fire pits, and it's actually a real danger. And the Costco Rangers have brought this to the attention of the residents in that neighborhood. But one thing that they're noticing is that there is a limitation on parking. You may not park after 8 p.m. on Wildwood, but around the corner there's no limitation. So the side street up the hill has no restrictions, and the street above that, the requirement is no parking after 10 p.m. So kids just park up there and walk down the street and go in and use it without worrying about their cars being ticketed and towed. So I'm just bringing that up as something for staff to look into, or at least be able to explain to me later, so I can pass this on to the residents.
Thank you. Any other suggestions? So to pick up with where we had left off, we are going to be trying to have some more consistent meetings, at least to get started. We know that we have a full agenda for February 20th. So with no other comments, we're going to adjourn. Well, are there any other staff comments? Anything I've missed?
We'll take your notes back, and we'll look at the projects that we'd like to present to you, and start to prepare the agenda for the February meeting.
Perfect. Thank you very much. We miss the opportunity to congratulate John on his retirement and wish him well, which we've kind of all done individually, but also want to thank everybody on staff for making everything so complete. And we miss John's smile, but we certainly didn't miss his work tonight, so thank you very much. And with that, the Traffic and Transportation Advisory Commission is now adjourned until 7:30 p.m. on Wednesday, February 20th, here in the boardroom of the Civic Arts Plaza. Good night, and thank you.